Welcome to the Nevcast, where three bros talk business, art, justice, and the pursuit of Jesus.
Any day above ground is a good day.
Get ready to laugh, cry, and kiss 30 minutes goodbye with Peter Nevland,
Dave Nevland,
and Rashi.
Welcome to the next Nevcast.
Hey,
Peter.
here we are.
And we may have Rashi on here in just a little bit.
You know, there are technical difficulties that are happening, but we can still say it's Rashi whenever he comes on. We'll get excited. You get excited too. And we also get excited because we have Fletch, the star, the real life Fletch, not the Chevy Chase, but
he lives.
It's a different guy.
He's never heard this before. Yes, he's never heard that before. Yeah, I was gonna.
Good to be with you guys.
Yeah,
thanks,
Fletch Wiley. And, you know, if you have heard of Fletch Wiley, you'd be like, oh, my goodness, you have Fletch Wiley on the Nevcast. And if you haven't heard of Fletch Wiley, he has probably influenced so many things that you're not even aware of.
True.
That you should pay attention because, we're really excited to have you on. It's an honor, actually.
The national debt.
Sorry, what was that?
The national debt, for one thing. So
he's influenced the national debt.
He's influenced the national debt.
Have you brought it down, or have you kept it even? Because that would be good. Or have you just caused it to go up?
I'm not saying.
Okay. All right.
Cool.
All right. Well, Fletch, you are in the middle of kind of writing a book, and would you call this kind of a retrospect or just a collection of stories, or what would you call this book of yours?
It is a collection of stories, and just the path that the Lord put me on is I've had I can say I've had a privileged life with Jesus. First of all, getting saved out of a life of addiction, drug addiction, in the 60s, and in October of 1971. So it's been 51 years. I've been a believer, and it's just that alone is an amazing accomplishment for the Lord, and nothing that I did. He sought me out, and it's been a wonderful, wonderful time, and being involved with just different music icons, and again, the Lord arranges these things, honestly, you guys, and I know you can say amen in your own lives. And so I've been exceedingly privileged to know folks that have affected me and affected the world of gospel music and music in general. So I'm a blessed man.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Cool. So you could say God is the master arranger.
That's right. I'm the lone arranger, and he's the master arranger.
Yeah. So Fletch is. I would say. Would you probably say you're best known as an arranger? Well, it's hard to say. Maybe. Okay. So Fletch is an arranger.
Yeah.
You play
that's what I do best, I think, because I like to. I was just working with a guy yesterday who wrote choruses in the 80s. John Sellers. You guys probably know him.
I remember seeing his name on a lead sheet or two.
Come into the Holy of Holies.
Enter by the blood of the Lamb.
And he I'm arranging his. He's got verses to his songs, so he has a whole new life. So that's what I like. I like to do that, but I like to play. I like to produce. I like to tell people what to do. So
you're a conductor in a way. So you're a conductor.
I will conduct my own scores. I would hasten to say I'm not a very good conductor, but I can conduct what I write. So, it's fun to have that variety. I enjoy all those things. It really is fun.
And you play the flute and the trumpet primarily, right?
And the flugelhorn. I'm playing more flugelhorn now, which is a hybrid of the trumpet, the same key, but it's a more mellow, darker sounding instrument than the trumpet. Yeah.
Do you have a flugelhorn right there? Do you have an example? Do you have it right there? You can just show us what it is.
I mean, in the words of Blazing Saddles, let me whoop it out.
Look at that.
There it is.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Now, how old is that? How old is that instrument? There's the trumpet. See, that's a difference.
I got it probably in 1967.
Oh,
I bought it
okay.
from a guy named Gary Grant. We were both students at the University of North Texas, and Gary was, and maybe still is, the premier session player, trumpet player in Los Angeles for at least 40, 50 years. So it's a Queenon French flugelhorn that Miles Davis, and lovely sound on it, just beautiful sound. Anyway,
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, no, I just had a patina to it that
yeah, it was in a fire, and I never re-lacquered it after that.
Oh, okay.
So fire helps all of us.
But you play you play a little bit of piano, and you're a master master in theory and stuff. A little bit of piano.
I'd never hire myself. Okay, so
right.
Let's put it that way.
Any guitar? Do you do any guitar?
No strings. No strings.
No strings.
Requires two hands, unlike piano, which I'm called the claw on piano. Okay,
Right.
like that. So,
That's right.
It kind of is like when that left hand. You can get by. You can get by with the claw, but if you're going to be really good, you got to be really good with both hands on the piano.
I've broken piano strings, so watch out.
There you go.
Okay. So
Join. I'm in the same club as you. I have done that as well.
okay, so I know. Like, I mean, the most obvious thing that I know that you did a long time ago was the Music Machine, and putting that all together. Before you did that, you said that you were in this different life, and God kind of changed that around. Can you see the way these seeds of music and arranging and everything like that were starting to be developed before you ever gave your life to Jesus? Like, how were you involved with those things then, and how did that lead up to?
That's a good question. The Lord is always working, whether we know Him or not, and I think we need to recognize that. And I grew up in Seattle, which is a very fertile city for music in the 50s and 60s. And when I was in high school, I mean, I met guys like Doc Severinsen and Henry Mancini, and went to these things called Stan Kenton clinics. Stan Kenton was a big band guy, a very famous big band guy in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. And he brought his whole band to these clinics for a whole week. So like I say, I was privileged, but I didn't know Jesus. And so they all said, go to University of North Texas in this little town of Denton, Texas.
Right.
It's still a fabulous music program.
Yeah.
Right.
And it was. And in the 60s, of course, the Vietnam War was just happening. I went there in 65. And so the students there were better than the faculty because they were trying to get out of the war, which you could get if you had a student deferment, they called it. Right. So it was a very challenging place to be, but I was surrounded by just incredible players and very challenging. And you sort of had to decide, now, do I really want to be a musician? Can I cut it? And just with these guys. And so I did. And then it led to, of course, drug use in the 60s. We were experimenting and didn't know what that meant. Eastern religions didn't know anything what it meant, but we were stupid and did stuff that was not good for you,
Yeah.
1970, I got married, and 71, we had a little baby, and that's when I came to Jesus. And I was an accomplished musician, but I hated what I was playing clubs,
Right.
How many times did you play Proud Mary every night, And so I was at a very low point, and some guys I was playing with, wonderful musicians. We were in a band called Third Avenue Blues Band. Bill Maxwell, Harlan Rogers, Hadley Hawkinsmith. Hadley played with Neil Diamond for 35 years. He just left Neil. And very accomplished players, but we didn't know anything about Jesus. Well, we all got saved and filled with the Holy Spirit. And it's, it was like once
in Denton. In Denton,
No, we were in Tulsa, Oklahoma, which was another funny story. We used to, when we were smoking marijuana, we'd drive around ORU in the prayer tower, which looks like a spaceship, and we'd like, man, that's really weird, And then I got saved there, playing in the club. And we always used to look forward to Leon Russell's band coming out and bringing their homegrown marijuana with them. Well, the night I got saved, they didn't show up. So, the Lord doesn't play fair ever. He doesn't
Right.
care, and I'm glad, because he sets you up,
Yeah.
and we need that. We really need that. So I got saved, and I was just so excited, about the Lord, and spoke in tongues more than ye all, as Paul said,
Uh-huh.
So my life changed radically, and I didn't go through any withdrawal. I never used drugs again, never wanted to.
Wow.
And I had a great desire to, just to maintain my sanity. I smoked dope all day long.
Wow.
So from that point on, 1971, I was a believer and firmly rooted in the Bible, and I loved reading the Word. But I didn't know anything about Christian music. It was very much in its infant stages, and the first thing I heard was Southern gospel, and was like, "Is that all there is?" So then I heard this guy, Andre Crouch, and a love song came out at the same time, and so that
Right.
was a whole different thing. Yeah.
Well, did you when you first came to Christ, did you ever feel like, oh man, I just got to give up music or whatever, or were you like, wait a minute, I need to keep doing music, but for a different reason, or how did that go?
Yeah, I was at a state where the week before I got saved, the Lord, it was a funny deal. Anyway, the Lord spoke to me about reading the Bible and stop taking drugs. So I came home. We were playing a lot in Oklahoma, and I came home to my wife, and we got out the huge family Bible, and we couldn't make head or tails of it. So again, I say the Lord set us up, for this. And a week later, I became a Christian. So when I got saved, the Word came alive. It was exciting. I couldn't care about worship because we were singing hymns. But with this, we formed a little band, 4 of us out of the 6 of this group, formed a band and started to play at a little storefront church in Oklahoma City. And it was exciting times. We started to write our own tunes and explore that, because we were very accomplished musicians.
Right.
But we didn't know anything about the Bible. And so that was kind of funny. Our first attempts at songwriting were pretty lame, but it was good. It was a healthy thing. We went to church every night for 6 weeks, which was great. Wow. Because when you get saved, and from a zero standpoint of knowing your background, you don't know what any of that means. I am a new creature in Christ, but I don't understand what happened to me. So it was really great learning that, and about 6 months later, I had a somewhat of a foundation in that.
Right. It's like a baptism in truth, really, just constantly, right? I mean, was it the school that they? Sorry.
No, it was an experience. I had an experience. It was a real experience.
Yeah.
But there needed to be, as they say, follow up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So were you and your band? Were you at like leading worship, or what were you playing? Were you playing on the streets, or were you playing in the church, or or both?
It was this little story. Well, kind of both. We started to write, as I said, and we were playing in a little storefront church that seated about maybe 90 people if you packed them in. And this band called Third Avenue Blues Band, you can look on YouTube, and we had a couple of singles out there. It was a great band. It was a really, really good band. And but so we started to write our own songs, and we did hymns too. But and then every Saturday night we do a concert with our little songs, and there was some other ministries there that started to happen. Oh gosh, it'll come to me in a minute. But Jonathan David Brown, if you know that name, he was a big time producer in Christian music early on. He was a high school kid there, and there was a lot going on in this little region. So
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's interesting. So then how did that first connection happen where you first started to maybe produce an album, or started to get your foot in the door and kind of like, maybe you could call it the Christian music industry, although it was just more like the group of people who are Christians who are making some music?
Well, we started to we moved to Oklahoma City. These guys all lived there, and in October, and our little son was about 6 weeks old,
Okay.
and Andre Crouch came into town with his van and with his U-Haul trailer. We met him and played for him actually in this little church, and he enjoyed what he heard. He said, I want you guys to be my band at some point. Well, we did record 4 songs in March of '72. Some guy gave us $700, and he said, "Boys, I don't really care for your songs, but God told me to give you some money, you know." So we went into a studio and recorded some songs, and then right after that, there was another fellow in town that was familiar with R.W. Shambach. I don't know if you've ever heard that name, but he was
yes, we know R.W. Shambach.
Yeah, great guy, tent revivalist with A.A. Allen. A great guy, you know, not a charlatan at all. And so this guy said, "I want you to go out to Santa Ana and play in his tent revival." I mean, it was like Grapes of Wrath. It was so funny because here was Santa Ana, but there are all these Okies and Texans there, you know. We're playing our funk. We're basically jazz funk, okay?
Right.
And again, very different. And so we played a whole week with him, and we did a little recording there, and I think we hung out with Andre a little bit there. He lived in LA, and that was March. And then in June, Explo '72 happened.
There you go.
Quite a seminal event in really kind of kicking off contemporary Christian music. They had 3 nights at the Cotton Bowl with packed out. That Bill Bright and Campus Crusade started this. And I don't know if Billy Graham was there, but
he was.
It was. Well, it was funny. We went on a fast. I think in April. This was in July, I think. But in April we went on a fast. Now we'd never fasted before, but we heard it was a good thing. So I picked up Bill Maxwell, and he was eating breakfast, and I said, "Bill, we're going to go fast." I know, man. I'm going to get hungry. So it's like, oh, man. So I picked him up. That was a joke.
Yeah.
So we fasted for 3 days at Lake Murray. Bill baptized me, and one of the guys had some pornographic magazines. We burned those, and it was an event, you know, in our lives. Another sort of milestone that the Lord said, you know, you need to get more serious. Sanctification was kind of happening, and we came back from that. And there was a guy named Rick Powell, who was a great arranger in Nashville. And he called Bill Maxwell and said, "I heard you guys are a really good band." How did he know about us? You know, and we need a backup band for Explo '72. If somebody doesn't have a band, you know, we'll give you some charts and you can rehearse and whatever.
Okay,
so
wow.
We became the backup band. I think we only played for a couple of artists, you know, and that was only on the Saturday event. There were 500,000 people on an expressway that hadn't been built there, and they set up this stage downtown Dallas,
right,
and on the dirt there, and it was quite an event. Johnny Cash and Chris Christopherson and Andre and Nancy Honeytree and Reba Rambo.
Wow.
So about 2 weeks later, we got in touch with Andre. We wanted to know what he was thinking, because he again said, "I want you guys to be my band." And he said, "Oh, I'm glad you called. I'm going on the Tonight Show in a week, and I want Hadley and Bill to fly out and be on it." So Harlan and I had to drag the equipment with us. We didn't get to be on the Tonight Show, but we became his band in August of 1972. So
72.
And I was
how old was he? How old was Andre at that point? Or how old was he? Was he a little bit older than you? Or?
Yeah, I was. When was that? How old am I? That was 72. I would have been 24. Wait, I don't know, 25, something like that. Anyway, yeah, he was probably 28, I think. Although he always would say, "I can't tell you how old I am because of my twin sister." Well, that was a bunch of crap, so he just didn't want to tell people.
Sandra,
My twin. Right.
twin.
So,
Is Sandra his twin? Was Sandra his twin? Real
yeah,
twin.
she's
Okay,
still
yeah.
alive and still
Yeah.
at their dad's church pastoring. Yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
That's
Um,
terrific. That's amazing.
So okay. So okay, you went and did that. The Andre. Okay, so Andre Crouch. I was going to ask you a question. It kind of left my mind, so I'm trying to figure out what I was going to ask you about that. But Andre, so he was at Explo 72, right? Because we've had, we've had an episode of the Nevcast where we talked to a guy who was at Explo 72, but as a fan, like in the crowd, and his stories were pretty funny about the whole setup and what happened. And Billy Graham just, telling everybody to get off the field and this kind of thing at the Cotton Bowl, and Larry Norman and his shenanigans, and Chris Christopherson and the Dallas Cowboys.
Well,
Anyway,
here's another funny anecdote. This Rick Powell he was manic. He wouldn't sleep. We were in the locker room every day, and he would write charts, really quick in his head. He was just hearing these things, and he's a genius. But he said, "Okay, guys, I'm going to lie down for 10 minutes and sleep." And 10 minutes later, he'd wake up. And so that was the Dallas Cowboys locker room at the Cotton Bowl was our rehearsal room. And I guess we rehearsed with people there or something. But Chris Christopherson, they were having trouble with the sound system on the Saturday, the big concert. And he said, "Mr. Sound Man, you better get it together. I don't want to cuss up here,
Yeah.
Like so.
Yeah.
It was kind of a disparate group. So, shall we say, some were saved, some were on their way to being saved, some were pre-Christians, shall we say. So it was, well, there was, we didn't, I don't know. I walked out to the Cotton Bowl a couple times, but we were busy downstairs underneath, doing stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. So Andre Crouch, I remember what I was going to ask you about Andre Crouch. Peter, did you have something?
No, go for it, Dave.
Okay, Andre Crouch. So there's a story about him and how he started playing music. Did he ever tell you that story personally? Because you spent some time with him. Eventually, you started arranging for him for years.
Well, he told that story every night. Okay. Well, I mean, pretty much every night. When he was 10, he started to play at his dad's church piano, and then his dad said, "Now, Andre, if I'm going to lay hands on you, and if God gives you the gift of music, will you serve him all the days of your life?" And he'd look at, "Yeah, Daddy." That was Andre. So, I mean, Andre was an incredible songwriter, and he drew his inspiration from everything. He was a big listener, everything, classical music, pop music, and so he. When I started arranging for him, I'd go over to his house, and he had a piano there, and I'd say, "Okay, play the song," and I'd have my little music pad there. And I was looking at his hands to listen to the song. Said, "Okay, play it again," and then I said, "Okay, play it again, Andre." And he's played it again. And I said, "Well, which one of those do you want me to write for the rhythm arrangement?" "What do you mean?" Well, he'd have little nuances and changes, some of them a bit major, in the chord structure. His chords were incredible. I mean, literally. And he had no idea what he was doing, which was great for me. It gave me job security, So,
Right.
Yeah.
He was a gifted writer. In fact, 8 years ago, Jack Hayford, who you might know that name, just died.
Yeah.
Right.
8 years ago, they died on the same day, 8 years apart.
Wow.
And when we had his concert in 2015, concert and homegoing service the next day, 8.5 hours, by the way, 4 hours and 4.5 hours.
Jeez.
They did 37 songs, and people were so mad because why didn't you do this song? There wasn't enough time. He wrote hundreds of songs.
Wow.
And they literally were all great. They really were in there. And so, and anointed, his concerts, we played for 2.5 to 3 hours, and in that span, you heard the whole gospel. It was an amazing time and funny, a lot of fun, he was self-deprecating and his humor, and he broke down racial barriers and class barriers, and he was great.
Yeah. I mean, was he kind of a soft-spoken guy, though? Really? I mean, in a way, not soft-spoken, but he was an introvert.
No, he wasn't really an introvert. He was quirky. He was very funny. We were in Auckland, New Zealand one time. You remember Brother Andrew, God Smuggler? Do you remember?
Yeah,
the guy with the cross, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
No, that's Arthur Blessed.
No, he's from the Netherlands. Brother Andrew. I saw him in England when we were over there playing for a festival.
Yeah. He smuggled Bibles into primarily in Eastern Europe, which was very locked down at the time. Well, he was going to come up into Andre's room. So Andre hid behind the curtains before he got there and was pretending he was hiding from Brother Andrew to see if he could find him. I was like, okay, Andre, that's really stupid, He was very, very funny and very funny. He was a little more quirky one-on-one. I mean, he would go off on tangents and
But, that's probably that happens a lot of times. I think with people who are incredibly artistic and gifted in the sense that they're used to following the little bunny trails that come into their brains. That's how the creative part of our brain works. And when you start giving it permission, and you're with people, well, lots of funny, quirky things come into your head, and some of them work and some of them don't. And you just do them because that's what you've trained yourself to do. You've trained yourself to give that part of your brain permission to go. And so you end up being a little awkward, a little quirky with people. You're not normal, that's for sure. So I can see that. That's pretty cool. So what happened? So you were with Andre for a good number of years. And was it just
3.5
years? So after 3.5 years, was it just that other opportunities started to present themselves, or did you kind of have a transition point where you're like, hey, you know what? I want to do other things, and I want to do other things, type of thing?
No, I mean, that was the beginning of him just really taking off. But at that point, I had 2 kids, and we lived in LA for not quite a year. And we just really hated it, because I was gone a lot. I mean, we traveled. One time we were gone 5 weeks, and that was too much. So we decided to move back to the Dallas area where my wife's mom lived. And I asked Andre, can I just fly out and meet you guys? And he said, sure, we'll arrange that. So my daughter actually thought I worked at the airport. That's what she told someone. So it was better, because when I was home, except if we're doing a record in LA or doing TV in LA, then they were home, but I was not. So at the end of that time, I said, guys, I love you and I love what's going on, but I have to leave. I have no job to go to. But I started producing records at that time. And that's where the Music Machine came about, actually that year in 1976. I had no idea what I was doing, but that's kind of been my deal. I just jump in with both feet and start working.
That's amazing. You met some guys. So then you met some guys, and they were like, "Hey, we want to do this kids album.
Yeah,
can you do it?" Is that basically how it happened, or
can you quick give a little background on how Agape Force and the Charles Schultz kind of thing happened and turned into Dallas or North Texas?
Well, I mean, I heard about it. I was never in the Agape Force, but Charles Schultz he was a really mighty man of God and
the Peanuts,
quite wealthy. Yeah,
the Peanuts.
And Peanuts. But
that's it for the Nevcast this time. Join us next week when we talk justice, business, and art in pursuit of Jesus. We will see you soon.